Ciao, loves. Welcome to Drawing Down the Stars. This is Gemma with episode number 34. In this episode, we're going to dive deeper into ancient astronomy and uncover the constellation Aquarii, also known as the Pitcher. Now, again, this is ancient astronomy and not the zodiacal sign of Aquarius. And in this episode, we'll go through the symbology, the myth, of course, touch on some history, the meaning of this star, and how it is associated with the spiritual evolution of man as well as the cycles of life on earth. And then finally, my favorite part, we'll jump into the plants and how our natural world is connected to this constellation. So let's begin, shall we? First and foremost, Aquarii has many stars, but the two most prominent stars help give it its symbolism. Now, these are named in Arabic, so forgive my pronunciation, but it is Sadmaldelek and Sadalsud. And whenever that prefix of Sad or Sa'ad in Arabic means luck or lucky. And we have this understanding because this star, Aquarii, is also known, according to the Babylonians, as the bringer of the storms. But it's also the lucky one of the king, or the luckiest of the lucky. The constellation holds a connection to order and hierarchy, as well as relationship and commitment, or what is required. The deeper connotations of this constellation are connected to the occult. And that's better understood in the planetary influences. And don't worry, we'll go through that later on in the episode. But under the stars of Aquarii, essentially we are getting acquainted with not only its meaning of lucky, but also its polarity, right? The Babylonians called it the bringer of the storms. So there is this polarizing nature of highs and lows, or transformation within these roaring seas and tides. The luck that is indicated in this star, or in this constellation among these fixed stars, is not so much luck of the draw. It's more about fortune or fortunate, to be of fortunate endeavors, and less about a lottery, and so to say. So herein we have, as I mentioned, the polarity. Because within these stars, we have the lucky and the blessings that flow into the fortune and the fortunate, and the high tides of destruction. It is part of the creative process. So as we continue to dive deeper into these stars, know that these flowing waters of Aquarius is about the flow of life force, the flow of new evolution, new innovation, new generation, and a new civilization. It brings us luck and fortune as that water flows, but it also brings destruction, which we know so true of water, its ability to transform. It brings us to the highest tides, to the lowest trenches. And here we begin to uncover the power that has inspired this constellation among so many cultures. 4,000 years ago, it rose during the winter solstice. So we have a direct connection, especially if in the year 2025, this star being a part of the spring equinox. So what is Aquarii? As I mentioned, Aquarii, being composed of two primary stars, is also depicted as a boy or a young man, or a man pouring water from a jar or an amphora. We also see that same imagery parlayed in the Greek myth of Ganymede, where the young boy is, for his beauty, exalted up in purity to be the water bearer for the gods by Zeus. This cyclical nature and this purifying nature of the water, but we have that imagery of the man pouring water. According to Ovid and Fasti, this water or liquid is not just the nature of water, but should be thought of as water being a nectar or a drink of the gods. In Sanskrit, it's soma. It is the life-giving essence. Just as this constellation is connected to the rise of Sirius, the Egyptians saw it as the pouring of this water would then, when Aquarii would be on its heliacal setting, then the waters across the horizon in Sirius would lift the water on earth, i.e. flood the Nile. So we have this direct correlation of this life essence, this water from the heavens. Water of Aquarius is very significant, not only in its myth and its correlation to creation, but more so because it is also thought of the water bearer, but the water bearer of all of the cosmic seas. And so we incorporate things like Pisces, or the southern fish, Pisces australis. And then we have Cetus, the whale, and we have Delphinius, the dolphin, and Eridanus, the river of the cosmos. And we have here Aquarii, the bearer, helping move not only the water that connects from the southern fish of Pisces, but also into Capricornus. It is the life force that flows into those gold orientations. So let's dive deeper into the astronomy of these stars. According to Ptolemy, who was a brilliant astronomer in his time, felt that these two stars were symbolic or more represented by the nature of Saturn and Mercury. And it is represented by these two prominent stars of Saldemec and Saldusud as being on the shoulder. We also see the same nature of Saturn and Mercury being aerial, turbulent, karma-inducing, and the communicator of the cycle. So in these several stars of Aquarius, the Sad, remember, means blessed or lucky. And based off of Saturn and Mercury, we have this nature of the turbulence and then the next passage. The star Smeldemuc and Smeldemek is more about the highs and lows, the transformation that occurs, just like the myth of Ganymede, and this boy in this purity that's symbolized as clean and untainted from previous incarnations, a new ordering, a new cycle of that same life-giving essence and nectar. Now, when this happens, we see that these myths begin to point to transformation and exaltation, moving it from the otherworldly life, beauty, and idealization to the other world. It's to break open the container of the previous structure. Now, let's go back just a little bit. This sign in the zodiacal form is called Kumbhaka. Kumbhaka also in Sanskrit translates to breath retention. Here we have this correlation of a connection between life force, or containing and holding the life force. When that amphora or jar breaks of the water, essentially it is a new form of life force that will take its formation or form. This is so prominent in the sense of the occult and the transformation of the cycle. It indicates the holding of the life-giving force, not only within the individual, but also within our creative world. And we begin to see these structures breaking away. You begin to see Aquarii in its prominence will rule over a sense of framework or new cycle within that framework. So here we have an incredible significance of water having through the creative process, celestially and terrestrially, right? Water is the life-giving essence, the life force, that which life emerges from is water. And then Aquarii being symbolized by the young boy holding the jar, we have the actual container ship holding that life-giving essence that is connected to the gods. Symbolically, it represents the cosmic life force or the universal solvent that is in alignment and purity. Alchemically, the symbology of water purifies the base metal or the worldly man. It's before it's even transmuted to gold or restored in its natural states of innocence. So we have this water is the purification medium, but also the medium of which is sustaining. In Hindu mythology, Aquarii is connected to Indra, the god where he ruled over where the souls dwell in result of their good karma. We have this position within the place of this star, this constellation, that we are in between action and reaction, restitution and regeneration. It is a point of life-giving and then also transforming, so you are both fortunate in the turbulence. It is a manifested process of the cosmos that all things are. And let's take it to Bepin Bahari, because I think he says it a little bit better so we can understand the spiritual nature of this constellation. Aquarius is also related to the aspects of the creative process, which is complete annihilation of the past and the evolutionary course, as well as the birth of a new race or a beginning of a new way of life. Aquarius stands for the radical transformation involving the purification of the dross, Aquarii, accumulated as a result of materialistic desire. It gives way for new spiritual direction to come forward. In the Bible, the story of Noah is actually connected to this star. Now we have John the Baptist that is connected to the star in terms of the purification aspect that came around mid-century. But we also have more prominently the story of Noah, where the boat is built upon these turbulent, raging waters, an ushering in of a new civilization, of ushering in of the new seed. We have the deeper symbology that starts to unfold from the spiritual aspects or the connotation of this constellation. Now, from the evolution of man, this is where the soul, essentially, as explained in alchemy, goes through an undertaking, a purification, a shaking up of the previous structure and foundation, both around us in the world, but also internally. This allows a new flow of consciousness to emerge, new life force to permeate and give life into the goals that were understood in Capricorn. It is the deep waters that will begin to churn. And what happens then from the individual level is there is a strong pull of self becoming selfless. Remember, Ptolemy mentioned Saturn as the quality of this constellation. So we have the self becomes selfless. And when this happens, it is a shift of the subject-object or the object-subject relationship. The nature becomes dharmically charged. A man seeks a higher purpose beyond himself, and the me is undone. The framework is shattered. The water, which is purified. The picture in this connotation then of this star is the individual consciousness that holds the universal creative forces. The ascent, the transformation, the occult, the unseen, that then sacrifices in order to elevate. Now let's go a little bit deeper and finally kind of wrap it up. But I really want to dive into Vivian Robinson's work and how she correlates the deeper understanding of these stars based off the planetary influence. Now remember, planetary influence within the constellation would be a co-rising, or the planet within that sphere. When a planet enters that sphere, think of it just as a new musical note entering an orchestra. There is a beat, a rhythm, a texture of the song. And then when a new instrument enters in, it creates a different vibratory rate that changes the song. So, if that wasn't too complicated, when the stars come into the star of Melik, the prominence is occult interest. It's almost as if there's a stirring within the universal that begins to move the individual, such as the Sun, Mercury, and Venus, Jupiter, are all associated with deeper understanding of the occult interest, be it in research, be it in service, or be it in companies. Here you understand the hierarchical nature that's also hidden within this star is there's a hierarchy. So occult intrigue, interest is going to follow a hierarchy or a relationship to a company, friendship, servitude, things of that nature. Now, when Saturn and Mars come into this constellation, which we have currently, there's a deeper meaning that starts to unfold. We see that Saturn, as Ptolemy had identified, is going to shift more of the psychic realm. There's going to be more caution, more pragmatism, more good judgment. But there's going to be a hindrance in the ideas or innovations moving into practice. The importance of this star and this constellation is awakening in alignment with the cycle, I guess to say. Now, when Mars comes here, it's going to push science and innovations. It's going to push discovery. However, any remedy for that or any reward from those discoveries tend to be fleeting. We have that air nature, that water nature. It's great and it's powerful when it's on you, but it flows away from you as well. Now, when the planets come into Sedal Sud, we still have some occult nature that is underpinning, such as when the sun is in these stars. and also with Mars, but Mars is going to be more about overcoming. And of course with the moon, but it goes deeper into relationships. So the occult in this aspect, when the sun is in Siddhal Sud, we have wealth from the opposite sex, more psychic harmony, respect from friends, favorable gains, changes in domestic conditions and positions. We also have social success or movement out, isolating oneself away. There's more of this interaction of relationship and exalting the relationship. So seeing what's hidden from behind or unseen. This is from Venus's perspective, strange or unforeseeable romantic events, separation. And from Jupiter, it's more material or social success, difficulties in marriage, or marriage to a foreigner. There you see a little bit more of this polarity that this constellation holds and how it kind of lifts and lowers a bit. Okay, lastly, this star is associated with its Solomon's seal. Now, Solomon's seal is a sacred plant. And the primary aspect of this plant's affinity to this constellation is the space between Aquarii and Pisces. Its ability to protect between realms, its ability to nourish joints, strengthen joints. So just like we see in the position between these two constellations, a joint or a juncture, a flow of the energy. Solomon's seal offers a protection on multiple planes, especially if you're doing any deep spiritual work. But for the physical form, it's such a beautiful spring herb that comes around the spring equinox, and it's hardy. It's going to nourish the joints. It's going to protect ligaments and also help in a little bit of the respiratory nature. But if you'd like to, I highly recommend, if it is not contraindicative, to work with Solomon's seal. It really will work on the premise of renewal and regeneration, as I've covered, is a strong influence and aspect of this star when it rises. It's also helped to aid in clearing the mind, again, seeing the occult, seeing the mystery, and doing the research. It will help the knowledge of grasping higher wisdoms become true, and also aid in deeper insight, which will help, once things get moving, to maneuver yourself through complexities and also offer and support spiritual purpose and significance. All right, my loves, that's it for this episode and Aquarii and its connotations, both within the stars, history, and a little bit on life on Earth. Ciao.